There's some Tennessee targets, Matt Ray, who's set to come out and make their announcements in the coming days, and obviously some announcements in the coming weeks. What can you tell us the latest kind of heading into this announcement watch for Ronan O'Connell, Daniel Calhoun, Marquez Easley?
Tennessee not doing anything there with Marquez easily. Shot their shot at Daniel Calhoun. He kept coming back to campus. He's going to end up somewhere else. To me, it's down to Texas and Georgia, and the home state Bulldogs have had a lot of momentum for a while. I'd be surprised to see him pick elsewhere. Ronan O'Connell, he's been a difficult one to gauge, but here heading into an announcement later today, it feels like Clemson has the momentum in that one. Tennessee, not really sure what more they could have done on that front with Ronan O'Connell. They were his first major Power 5 offer. Recruited him the whole way. Clemson offered him basically 2.5 months ago, but managed to get him back to campus for an official visit. And I think when it really comes down to it, if he picks the Tigers later today, he likes the opportunity that's there on the offensive line. He would be the first offensive lineman committed in their class for this cycle. So I think that makes it interesting. But, Tennessee, obviously had Ronan here on his last official visit. Felt like they had some momentum coming out of that one. But he's just a guy that plays things pretty close to his vest. Didn't talk to anybody. Didn't do any updates. Hasn't really talked to any of the recruits that were here with him, since he left that weekend. So he's been hard to judge. But Clemson, when they offered him, had him on campus for a junior day, offered him and made it a big enough impression to get him back. And they seem to be best positioned right now.
What about another guy that's set to make an announcement coming up here very, very soon? That'd be offensive lineman William Satterwhite.
Yeah, William Satterwhite's one that's gone back and forth now for, the better part of 3 months, really, behind the scenes, it feels like. And it's mainly been between Tennessee and Clemson, with each team having momentum. At some point, Clemson, grabbed momentum heading into his official visit there at the 1st of June. But he wanted to see the process through. He had decided that he hadn't made a decision ahead of time because he wanted to see both Tennessee and Clemson on official visits. He took his official visit to Tennessee the last weekend of June and said all the right things coming out about the Vols. And this would still continue to go back and forth. You've heard us say a couple of times in the general's quarters that it feels like it's as good as a coin flip. Over the weekend, it felt like Clemson had more of the momentum. Now maybe Tennessee's got a little bit more of that. I think for him, he was going to decide on July 4th or 5th. He pushed that back and decided he would take the holiday to kind of finalize everything, have final conversations with each coaching staff. To my knowledge, he hasn't informed either coaching staff of a decision. But right now there's a little bit more optimism, at least the time of this recording. And I say that because this thing has, again, shifted multiple times in the last 72 hours. Here at the time of this recording, there's a little bit more optimism around Tennessee. But William Satterwhite is a guy that's just trying to do his due diligence, I think. When you talk to him, it's not really – he can't say anything bad about either program, and he can't say enough good about either program. So it's like I think he understands that he has a really good opportunity in front of him whichever way he goes, and he's trying to figure out the best way to eliminate one. I think it was important to him during his official visit that he got – some more one-on-one time here with Tennessee. And if the Vols end up winning out, here on Friday, I think that's going to be, a big reason why.
And then another guy, and again, these things can change by the minute. It's recruiting, and it's important that we say at the time of this recording because we recorded and then you guys hear it a couple hours later, right? So Elijah Rushing's a guy that's kind of hard to get a read on right now. Obviously, Tennessee's up there, but right now it's a little unknown, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's time to close the door there on Elijah Rushing. There's a lot of folks that have felt good about Oregon. Arizona's, one that still feels optimistic to an extent about their chances for keeping the in-state kid home. But he came out here, and as we alluded to, a couple of days before that visit started, maybe on Wednesday of that week, after we caught up with Elijah Rushing, it felt like the Vols were in that more so than many thought. It still feels like that's the case. He had a really good time out here. His family had a really good time out here. He likes the scheme at Tennessee and what it offers him. So we'll see. He's one that's going to be pretty quiet going into this decision on July 6th. But, not ready to close the door on Tennessee there. The Vols have a chance. And to me, this is just an example, not that it's going to end this way, but this one feels like how Jordan Matthews felt at this time last year. LSU felt like, they had maybe circled back in to have enough of a chance there. Texas really felt confident. Tennessee was, cautiously optimistic. To me, that's where this, decision is with Elijah Rushing. I don't think anybody's going to know ahead of time. He hasn't told his staff, and I think that's the way it'll be going into this decision on July 6th whenever he announces.
One of those where we have to record two different versions of a podcast, Brent Hubbs.
won't be the first time. And listen, I mean, it used to be everybody talked about, how long did you have something recorded and done, or did you ever have one that never aired? Those are becoming a little more frequent, in terms of guys. They're not afraid to do, they trust you. They're not afraid to go ahead and knock something out. And that doesn't mean, used to that meant it was a lock that you were getting, that Tennessee was getting that kid. But that's not necessarily the case there. And we don't have anything done with Elijah Rushing. And I'm not suggesting that we did, or that we do. I think that's Tennessee, Oregon. I know Arizona's hanging around there, but I think, Matt, you would agree. It feels like Oregon's the school everybody's been chasing. I think Tennessee certainly put a little fly in that ointment, if you will, with their visit, because I think that visit went better for the Rushing family than they probably anticipated it going when they came out here. Not that they thought it was a waste of time, but it felt like Oregon had a pretty good lead on him before he came to town, and after that visit, Tennessee did a really good job of closing that gap. We'll see if it's enough coming up later this week.
And some other ones that, when you talk about, could be fireworks, if you will, in the coming weeks or whatever. Running back Braylon Russell, of course, you got Amari Jefferson, Mike Matthews. I mean, there's still a lot more potential to obviously add on to this recruiting class, but to really get kind of like a home run prospect into this class, Matt Ray.
Yeah, I think here heading into the 1st of July, Tennessee's had some momentum with Braylon Russell. Haven't heard anything to suggest that that's still not the case. Yeah, you have to close out there, though, at the end of the day. He's going to announce on his birthday on July 14th, and Arkansas is not going to go away. The home state program that already had him committed once. But, I think Tennessee's done enough there at this point to be the team to beat heading into that July 14th decision. Now you have to hold on and survive the rest of the way. Amari Jefferson and Mike Matthews, both those guys are interesting to me. When do they do something? I continue to think for Mike Matthews, it's mid to late July. He's focused. Brent touched on this earlier. You talk about guys that, their phone's buzzing constantly. They're trying to balance all sorts of things. I think right now that might be Mike Matthews. He's a guy that he's wrapped up these official visits. All these programs want to know where he's at. He's just trying to finish summer school so he can graduate early in December and get to, enroll early at the school of his choosing. So I've talked to him, and he's focused on that. He's really, really deep into that right now. It's a dead week in Georgia. Next week when things open back up, there'll be a padded camp, so he'll be a full go for that. But when does he decide to do something? I think once things shift back next week towards that football type mindset, he's back around his team. I think he probably starts working towards a decision, and we'll see when he announces something. And then Amari Jefferson, I think he's interested. He's playing baseball, just taking this thing as it goes. It still feels like the more that you talk to folks at late July could be a realistic decision timeline. Does it get into August? Who knows? He hasn't been in an extreme hurry to get this done at this point. But, I continue to think that one, as we've said multiple times, if you talk to somebody on the Alabama side of things, they feel a little bit more optimistic about their chances. Whereas if you talk to somebody on the Tennessee side of things, they feel a little bit more optimistic about their chances. And, that's another one that to me right now is, Tennessee has done some really good things in this recruitment. And I think, that they have a chance to win out. They've closed the gap multiple times, and I think they're able to do that because of the opportunities that they present on the football field, on the baseball field. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see. Alabama folks think that Amari will be back to Tuscaloosa in late July once things open up to meet with the baseball program. That wasn't something that he got to do during his official visit there. So that'll be something worth monitoring. But again, I'm kind of in the camp right now. If he makes that trip, I also think he makes it back to Knoxville at some point during that short open week. So I think those cancel each other out. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Bottom line in recruiting, the next 4 weeks are going to create fireworks or some duds. I mean, it is that Tennessee is in a bunch of – it feels like they're in a bunch of some coin flips, Matt. I mean, and that's not to say Tennessee's recruited bad. They're just in deep waters with some big high-profile schools. Feel like they've got some momentum with some guys, but they've had some. They've lost some. They've got some momentum back with various guys. The question is, how do they close this month? Because this month's going to tell a whole lot about what this class looks like. When they go to camp, they go to fall camp 4 weeks basically from today and get this thing cranked up. What that class looks like compared to now is going to be really, really fascinating. And the next 4 weeks are going to tell a whole bunch.